You're listening to Autumn on the Air, the weekly podcast that brings you conversations about the impact of research commercialization and the people who make it happen. Join us for interviews with patent and licensing professionals, innovators, entrepreneurs, and tech transfer leaders on the issues and trends that matter most. Keep listening for an inside track on the people, IP policies, and politics changing our world.
To support positive change in emerging technology transfer offices, there must be intentional practices, programs, and initiatives to support inclusive innovation. These practices, programs, and initiatives must consider providing access for women, people of color, Indigenous people, people with disabilities, members of the LGBTQ community, and other underrepresented groups, which can lead to a more successful and inclusive innovation strategy. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Derrick Brent, the Deputy Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Deputy Director of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. As the Deputy Director, Derrick serves as the Principal Advisor to Kathy Vidal, the Undersecretary of Commerce for Intellectual Property and Director of the USPTO, managing a wide portfolio of programs and operations for one of the largest intellectual property offices in the world, with more than 13,000 employees and an annual budget of more than $4 billion. Derrick's responsibilities include working with Director Vidal to lead the USPTO, as well as advance IP policies and procedures for the benefit of the country, expand the USPTO's outreach efforts to incentivize and support more innovation and entrepreneurship nationwide, and execute the agency's policies, priorities, and programs. Welcome, Derrick. I'm so excited to have you here on the air.
Well, thank you very much for the privilege, and I mean that, to be here with you. Obviously, Lisa, you and I have been on a panel before, so
Yes.
and I enjoy our conversations. And that's what this is. This is really a conversation. And then also, with our friends here at Autumn, they are a valued collaborator and partner of the USPTO. So anything we can do to support efforts here and get the word out about tech transfer and tech transfer offices, we're happy to do.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time again. And it's always a pleasure to see you, Derrick. You're just amazing. So I'm really excited about this conversation. My only concern is you and I could probably talk for hours. And our listeners, I don't think want to listen that long. But anyway, I thought maybe to kick things off, it would be neat if you could share with us some specific initiatives that are led by the USPTO with respect to promoting diversity and inclusion within tech transfer offices.
Yeah, thank you. So I take this question sort of in a couple of parts. And the first part is technology transfer as a whole, or tech transfer. I'm sorry, I'm going to use the colloquial term, tech transfer. There's a promotion of tech transfer generally. And the USPTO has begun to really to dig in. And that's not to say we didn't before, but this is tech transfer is a wonderful way. It presents a couple of things, right? It presents the opportunity of education of students. It presents the opportunity for entrepreneurial gains and startups, and then also presents a chance for innovation to reach the marketplace. So as a general proposition, we've been leaning in, trying to provide more education and outreach of our services generally as they help facilitate moves to marketplace. But we also are reaching out because we think that early engagement of students, high school, even especially in college, presenting them with the idea of tech transfer as an opportunity, and not just there's the research end of it, but there's also the idea of working in a tech transfer office for folks that are in the business side. So there's a wide array of folks, and we're trying to make sure we hit these folks and that we tell them about the good things about tech transfer. Now, what we've done also, in addition to that, in terms of broadening and making a more inclusive tech transfer system, is we've engaged in outreach, not just with your traditional tech transfer programs, but we have also engaged heavily with HBCUs and MSIs in an effort to also expand their capacity and to expand their activity in the system. We also have a national entrepreneurship strategy that we're working through. And that includes tech transfer as one of the elements of building on a national entrepreneurship strategy. And then we work with partners like AUTM, the federal labs, our federal partners like the Department of Energy, NSF, and so forth. And we want to coordinate resources. If we can, now look, that's a lot of stuff right there. But if we can do all of those things and keep those activities going, you will bring more people into the system. And what's in the system, you will make it more robust. So I think those are the ways, those are the two goals by having these different activities. And that's what the USPTO has been doing, just really engaging on a high level and also trying to reach folks to bring more people into the tech transfer system.
Yeah. And I know by the newsletters and emails that come out, every single day, there is so much going on and so much leadership coming out of the USPTO on these issues. And, you mentioned HBCUs and ERIs. And can you tell us a little bit more how the USPTO collaborates with ERIs to help drive diversity and inclusion in innovation?
Absolutely. It's been a passion project, but it's a passion project that has tangible results for our country. And so, it's not a vision quest or a vanity quest. It is more of this is a way that we can tangibly raise and strengthen our economy as well as the system. So some of the ways that we've engaged with HBCUs is so last summer we conducted a series of roundtables. And we conducted them with tech transfer staff from HBCUs and MSIs. It was a great process. One of the unique things that we did with this roundtable is that we had subject matter experts along with the tech transfer folks. So we really fostered what we think was an important conversation. And it was a dialogue. Dialogue works two ways. That's why conversation or dialogue work two ways. And the beautiful part about it was the schools got to discuss their stories, their journeys. Some are journeys that, have them at the R2 status and have them in a really great position. But some of the stories are folks who are saying, hey, I'm just starting out. And in one case, when you talk about folks, for example, in Kentucky, they're blessed to have an organization like Kentucky Commercial Ventures that they can plug into as a consortium. So all of these ideas and all of these different ways the schools are operating, whether they're at the beginning of the tech transfer journey or at the end. And this roundtable was really helpful. And the subject matter experts got to hear the stories firsthand and actually engage in a dialogue and talk directly with the schools. So it was a really fruitful conversation. We've continued that engagement both with the subject matter experts and the schools. We've enhanced our efforts at applying through our regional offices to provide additional education, IP education. And particularly what we're doing is not only are we educating students, are we doing a outreach to students, we're doing outreach to the faculty. We want to make sure we teach the teachers. And if we can get the researchers to be more educated about IP, that can strengthen it. But we're also, when we're doing outreach, and I know I've had a couple of occasions where I've had a chance to talk to senior administrators. The thing we have to expand, I think, in order to expand tech transfer is to really win the minds and hearts of the administrators, because the schools that are excelling are schools where the administrators, whether it's at the chancellor or provost or president level, or all the way down to just a provost in, I shouldn't say just, but a provost in the research area, winning those minds and hearts so that they commit to it and they commit to the expansion. And so on our side, we need to do more, and we'll get into this a little bit later. But on a federal government side, we need to do more to be more what I call user-friendly, and that is we need to do a better job of coordinating our resources so that folks don't have to look all over the map to find out how to engage the federal government on tech transfer.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a little while, and I'm really excited to hear about what you have to say on that front. So I also wanted to ask you, Brent, what are some of the effective strategies that the USPTO employs to help ensure equitable access to resources and opportunities for underrepresented groups?
I think this is an area where, and I'm going to give a shout out to my colleague, my friend, and also my boss, Director Kathy Vidal. When you talk about someone who brings their mind and their heart to work
every day,
and bringing more into the system, that has been something that she's been passionate about. And I will say she's been very successful. And I think our agency has been successful. So in terms of for the overall innovation system, for example, our pro bono program. And our pro bono program is one of our shining crown jewels.
It's incredible. The success rate, the number of applications filed, it's truly, I completely agree with you, a success story.
It is. It's something that just has taken off, and we're looking at ways to grow it in terms of the services that it can provide more across. We already have coverage of the entire country plus 2 territories, but we want to make sure that we make it even easier for folks to access these services. So the pro bono program has really been a crown jewel. And now what we've added to the pro bono program is a program that you will see that we run. I want to say we run it a few times a year. It's somewhere between 3 to 4 times a year, but it's called Pathways to Inclusive Innovation, and we just call it Pathways. I mean, if I got the end of the name wrong, just know that look for something that says Pathways. The Pathways program, Lisa, is really unique in that we begin the program with the USPTO giving education to entrepreneurs. The audience are entrepreneurs who may be eligible for pro bono services, or who may not be, who may be past that stage but still want to get that education. So we start the Pathways programs off with IP education and discussions, and then in the second half, what we've added to that is bringing the marketplace into play. And so bringing these entrepreneurs closer to the marketplace, we bring in funding sources, federal government partners, others. We talk about everything ranging from how to get funding from the SBA all the way up to like funding from Bank of America or some other private institution. So now we're saying to entrepreneurs, here's how to develop IP. This is why IP is important. But on top of that, we're also saying, hey, the funding is very important. So I'm going to hit a couple more just real quickly, but we've had enhanced outreach through our regional offices. They've done an incredible job, especially over the last year plus, in really developing geographic diversity and bringing more outreach to under-resourced and underrepresented areas. I clap my hands all the time about them. One of our regional office directors, Molly. I
was going to mention Molly. I know Molly, and boy, is she energetic, and boy, is she doing a great job.
Molly is fantastic.
She is amazing.
And Molly has one of if you look at the
region,
the Rocky Mountain region.
Yeah, it's huge.
It is huge, but here's the thing, is there's population centers, but geographically, distance-wise,
yes,
it is one of the most difficult. And she does a fantastic job with that region. So I'm happy to give her a shout out. We have a first-time filer program that we implemented it with the first-time filer that said that you would get an expedited. If you're a first-time filer, you get expedited review up to your first office action. And what that does is that brings more people into the system, because that allows people, so they say, okay, if I can get this, I can get information back to figure out whether to go forward.
A decision. Yeah. I think that was, as a patent attorney, I thought that was a great initiative, especially for individual inventors or small startups. I think that's really going to make a difference.
It's a great
program.
And we have the IP identifier program, IP identifier on our website, which allows entrepreneurs to go and look at to figure out what they want to do. Not what they want to do. They have a chance to actually take their idea, put in some information about it, and figure out what type of IP might apply. That's been helpful. But the last thing I'll mention is our Office of Innovation Outreach, OIO as it's called, and they do a program. During Black History Month called Black Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Phenomenal program, and it brings in entrepreneurs. I've participated in this program the last year, and I'm going to do it again. I'm actually flying there Thursday to be at the program. And it is just, when you see entrepreneurs, particularly entrepreneurs of color, that are engaging and getting this knowledge. I mean, they get so excited. They're passionate about it. They want the knowledge. The program is run well. It's panels. And again, it's panels from a wide array of the entrepreneurship spectrum, from IP all the way up through potential funding. And that program is actually expanding, where it's not just going to be Black History Month. We're actually going to run that program. I believe we're looking at expanding it so that it'll run a couple more times per year. But those are the ways that those are just a few of the ways that we've really engaged.
Yeah. And some of them, like you have said, the first time filer, the patent pro bono program, have been extremely successful.
Yeah.
So, Derrick, you've mentioned several things that have been successful at the PTO so far. Are there some other approaches in fostering a more inclusive innovation ecosystem that have also had some success that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I think we've been, it's not fortunate because hard work goes behind these strategies. But I think we've been successful in many of our approaches because I think we've been intentional. We've really done the homework and looked for where can we make the maximum impact. We're always asking that question: where are we making impact? How can we make impact? And one of the keys is engagement. And when we look at engagement, whether it's through outreach in our regional offices, it's not about just that one touch. You can't do just hey, we're giving you these the IP basics, or we're giving you this trademark boot camp. You have to follow up, and you have to make sure the people are plugged into the office. That's providing access. So that more is a holistic concept. It's about make the engagement, make the reach, make the touch, but also have follow up to it because you want to make sure folks are plugged in. Even if they don't need it, maybe they just want to know. And so you want to make sure that that's there. I think also another thing that has helped us in this area as an approach is that internally our teams have a wide array of perspectives, and we have diverse teams that bring a wide array of perspectives, as I said, to the table, so that when we're looking at things, we're looking at areas. Someone might know something about a geographic area. Someone might know something about a particular community. Having folks at the table is so key.
It's imperative. Yeah,
it's imperative to get that. But the other thing is making sure, and on top of that, because as you mentioned, we're doing a lot, and we do a lot that is out for the system, the IP system. We do policy and different things like that. The other aspect that I think that has helped us in terms of inclusion is making sure that those matters are communicated widely, and make sure that they're widely. So you're not just going into if you're communicating something, yes, you want to hit the practitioner community, but you also want to hit folks at the university levels. And then when you're hitting at the university level, are you hitting all of the universities? Are you hitting entrepreneurs? And that's the other thing, is making sure that we're communicating on a wide basis to really help so that everything that's going on at the office, people are getting knowledge and are not getting left behind.
No, that's so important. And, you've talked about several successful programs so far, but with success also comes challenges, right? They're just inevitable. And so talk to me a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that the PTO has faced when advancing diversity and inclusion goals, particularly within tech transfer offices, and how have you pivoted and addressed those challenges?
Sure. Lisa, you always want to do more, right?
Exactly. There's only 24 hours in the day.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, one of the things at the USPTO, I know it's an agency with a big heart. And I know folks go to bed every night, wanting to do more, wanting, saying, what more can we do? And so it's a great agency in that respect. I think one of the challenges that we have is scaling our programs. So you can do a successful outreach program at University X. You can go and meet with a bunch of entrepreneurs in city Y, and that's great. But how do you scale it so that it comes out of the room? And we've done a good job. We've really improved in our ability to take things. So when Kathy is at a meeting, whether it's an international meeting or a domestic meeting, or she's doing some event, taking the message out of that room and being able to lift it up so that others can see it. But beyond the messaging, when we do the outreach, like as we've done this outreach to the HBCUs, there are 107 HBCUs. Our roundtable was only 10, but we've managed to find to scale up and get outreach to some other schools, and we're going to continue doing that. But scaling these individual touches is really one of the things. Like, it's okay. How can I get everybody in the room so I can talk to them at once? You're not going to do that. So now you have to figure out, how do you hit clusters best and most effectively? I will tell you the other challenge that I'd like to mention, but it's a challenge on us, I think, as a federal government, is for us to really get together and coordinate our resources. I think one of the challenges from those roundtables, talking to the HBCUs and MSIs, and then going out generally and doing outreach, one of the things you hear, especially for emerging institutions, and it doesn't have to be just an HBCU, it's just any emerging institution that's out there, is they don't have a full-time government affairs office that can look and say, oh, DOD has this program, and Department of Energy and NIH has this, so that they have the complete picture. And so they may be plugged into one part of the government, but not the other. And it was a conversation I was just having actually this week with one of the senior leaders at the Department of Commerce. And we were talking about that aspect, in that how can we coordinate? So I give props to our friends at NSF. They are doing some great collaboration.
They do some great
really
work.
are.
Yeah.
I know I had a meeting with the Office of Science and Technology Policy with the White House. They're engaging on this, and all of us are saying, like, how can we get some type of coordinated resources, just so that at least, and I think the initial point is that each of us has to be a feeder to the rest of the system for tech transfer. So we have to all get together, kind of know what each of us are working on, and enough so that when somebody comes in, we can feed them to different parts. Ultimately, farther down the line, you're looking at some more things. Is there a resource hub that you could build? And I'm not talking about a physical building or something, but some type of resource hub that you could build. But as an initial matter, we all have to act as gateways, because we have to feed people so that once they come into the system, we're like, oh, you might want to also talk to, SBA, SBIR. You might want to talk to DOE. Department of Transportation even has some stuff. So we want to make sure that we get coordinated resources so that folks can really take advantage of the system.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot. And like you said, for a small emerging research institution, it's overwhelming and, too much information for a small office to even kind of absorb. So I think that's totally right.
And it came up in our conversations. The other aspect of, we're working with Autumn on this, is for emerging research institutions having coordinated resources, but also having networking opportunities so that they can actually have conversations with each other. If you can build a way for them to have conversations, when we had those roundtables, I'm telling you, and I'm going to tell one of the stories real briefly. Just seeing folks like, hey, wait a minute, that's how you handled that? Well, I could learn from that. And I know that our folks at our roundtable are still staying in touch with each other. They send me notes from time to time. But one of the tech transfer offices or commercialization leaders at her school built the plane backwards. She said, I'm not going to go bother the researchers. I'm going to build the commercialization side. And when I build the commercialization side, the pipeline and the process for taking it out, I'm going to go to them and say, you've got this beautiful research. We've got the process to get it out. She built the plane backwards. And I remember one of the other schools going, that is brilliant. That is brilliant.
I've never heard of that before. That was a very smart move on her part.
Yeah. And she did it, necessity is the mother of invention, exactly. Right? She did it because she had, it was in addition to her other duties at the school, but she did it primarily because that was where she says, I got to focus time. Let me try and do it this way rather than trying to pull it from this end.
Very, very smart. And then when she went to the researchers, she, had the system in place. So right. That's pretty amazing. Now, you've mentioned, Derrick, several different partnerships and collaborations that the USPTO has. Are there any other ones you wanted to mention that you have that are used to support diversity and inclusion efforts and innovation?
Yeah, this is where I get into trouble, right, Lisa? Because it's the ones that I leave out. They'll be like,
second chance, Derrick, second chance.
No,
I'm teasing you.
So I'm going to name, I always risk leaving someone out, but I'm going to obviously start with Autumn. Autumn's just been a phenomenal partner. Shout out to not just you, but Steve Sasolka has been fantastic. Mike Waring and Colleen, they have really stepped up, and we've had great dialogue on ways to work together, and I think we have some interesting stuff coming down the line. And also working with Almisha, the outgoing board chair.
Almisha's been fantastic.
She's been phenomenal, and And so there's AUTM, there's National Academy of Inventors that are doing some important work in this area, trying to lift up and broaden the tech transfer and research community. There's the Federal Labs Consortium. Now they are, and it's funny, I was here at AUTM last year where we started discussing HBCUs, and I got a note from someone from Federal Labs, and they were like, I was running around trying to find you. Like, it was such a great conversation, and they're doing fantastic work, and they have a great set of tools.
They really do. They have an amazing set of tools, and I'm going to plug. They actually have a podcast that's going to be airing soon too.
Oh, great!
Well. That's going to be awesome.
Great. I really give them credit. The key is so they're working with the federal labs, and the interesting thing for them is providing those resources. Can we get those education resources out to people who are prospective federal labs partners, right? Who maybe don't have federal funding, but want to have federal funding. And so those are ones. UNCF has been a great partner and has been working hard in this area of expanding commercialization efforts. Our federal partners, NOAA, Department of Energy, OSTP that I just mentioned, NSF, obviously NIST, just a wonderful group of partners. But our most important partners are really getting out right into the field, and that would be the universities themselves, from the HBCUs all the way up to the R1s. And one of the great things I will say is that we have a number of folks that we talk to that are in that are already in the R1 space and have really big programs, and where they could just sit there and run their program. They've reached out to us and we reach out to them, and we're asking the same question. How do we open the door for more to come through? How do we help others? And there are some big hearts out there. So
there's some really big hearts. Yeah. People who really are trying to make impact. And like you said, working, I'd like to say it's 24/7 based on some of them, based on what I've been reading and hearing from them. So it really is amazing how big some people's hearts are. And that leads me to ask, with all of these different programs and initiatives and collaborations and partnerships underway, how do you measure effectiveness of all these different initiatives, particularly the ones you have with tech transfer offices?
That's a
tough one, I would think.
That's the million dollar question.
Yeah.
It is, because the short answer, I'll go back to my litigator days, where they say, tell the judge the answer and then explain, as long as the judge will let you explain. The answer is it's an ongoing process. Developing the data. What are your data sources? And then what are your outcome metrics? Because now you have to change your metrics. I think for a long time, not just in the government, but also I think generally as a society, but I'm just going to say, at least I think for a lot of us, it was, you were measuring effort, and it was like, oh, we did this. We talked to this many people. We ran this many, and we did this many programs. We raised this much money. And I think that's okay. But what was the impact? And I know that inside of the federal government over the last couple of years, we have really made a big shift on metrics of trying to develop an outcome. I mean, we've shifted some of our metrics, our internal performance metrics, at the USPTO. So we're developing baselines, and we're also measuring more outcome determinative things. So that is sort of an ongoing thing. But we are building. Right now, we're working with our partners to see what data is out there. AUTM has some great data sets.
They do a great job on data collection and analysis.
Yeah. We've had conversations with other partners that are in the licensing area. How do we sort of pool this data? And we have, we're fortunate to have a great economist, an economist office that can work through these things. The Department of Commerce, the Census Bureau, has data geniuses, really, and they've gotten involved in helping other bureaus to work with to pool data, to work on developing more targeted metrics. So I will say that, but I will tell you that at the end of the day, measuring the outcome is really one of the most important things. And it's really something that you need it so that you can make tweaks along the way.
Yeah. And I think data collection, it's so important when you're talking about diversity and inclusion. And it's an evolving process too. It's one thing that's never static. It's always growing and changing depending on your initiatives. And Derrick, we've been talking for a while now about all these different things that are going on with respect to diversity inclusion at the patent office. And there might be some listeners out there who are wondering, why is it important to the PTO to prioritize diversity and inclusion and innovation?
I think, my brother-in-law was on CNBC once, and he said it's just unequivocal that when we're diverse, we're stronger. And when we're stronger, we're better.
Absolutely.
And I think it goes from that core principle of the more you have on your team, the better your product is. And I really think that that's part of it. But, one of our core principles is driving inclusive innovation. And it's so important that it's the first pillar or plank of our strategic plan. It is, our overarching principle of how can we drive inclusive innovation. And as I said, the innovation system strengthens our economy, it strengthens our country. It helps to, bring innovation to impact so that all of a sudden when you're getting these breakthrough things, can you get them into people's hands so that they can use it? And so we all know about the importance of innovation, and then diversifying that only brings more solutions into more hands. And, there's the report out there, that says that if we could increase the number of inventors, I believe
women inventors, underrepresented inventors,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at what would happen to our economy. There's plenty of studies out there that demonstrate what that impact could be.
It increases our GDP.
Exactly.
And that is, and it's amazing. But there's, right alongside that report about the general principle, McKinsey did some interesting work in this area, and they looked at it, and they were looking at Black entrepreneurs. And if you could get right now, Black entrepreneurs roughly 2.2%. I think I'm pretty sure that's the number.
That's pretty close to yeah.
It's 2.2%, and they get 2.2% of the funding, and they represent 2.2% of all entrepreneurs or small businesses. If you could get that up to the representative level in society, which would be roughly in the 12 to 13% area. This is irrespective of performance. If they just existed, you're talking about $1 trillion to the GDP. So when you have an opportunity out there, it shows you that even a small increase is going to make a big impact.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I always cite in this area, and I'm sure you've heard it before, in our pro bono program, I think our pro bono demographics, now these are independently run organizations. As I mentioned before, we don't take demographic data at our agency. But our pro bono providers do, and they provide information. And if you want to look at what innovation looks like or what the ecosystem looks like when you put resources and opportunity together for folks, 43% of our pro bono applicants identify as women, 35% African American, 14% Latino, Hispanic, 8% is veterans. 8% is veterans. And we've been working on outreach to grow the veteran entrepreneur community. So that's what tomorrow looks like as we continue doing the work of today. Tomorrow is a robust, it is bright, it is inclusive, and it's going to be an engine that's going to knock the socks off. So that's why we're doing the hard work of today.
Now, Derrick, what advice would you have for tech transfer offices within ERIs that are looking to enhance their inclusivity efforts based on your experience at the PTO and all the different programming you have going on?
That's a great question. To TTOs generally, I would say cast a wide net. Find all of the talent that you can. Do not be locked in to just folks who have the experience of today. You want to find business folks that bring concepts from outside of the realm that possibly can be applied. There are also, I think, casting a wider net will bring you a wider group of researchers. It will bring you a wider group of professionals. It will also give you access to the marketplace better. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, I think exposing more undergrads to research and tech transfer is paramount. And I know for me, if I had known about this work, I knew a little bit about research because my mentor in undergrad brought me in to be his research assistant, but it was primarily handling some research matters for him, related to how his teaching his classes. But he also exposed me a little bit to it. I wish I had known about it because I think for undergrad students, when they look at research, they're like, oh, I'm going to be in a lab and I'm just going to be writing up remarks and maybe we'll publish a paper or something. but they don't see that entrepreneurial potential. And I think if they could see the pathways that are in addition to just doing the research, I think that it becomes more exciting for them. So that is, I think, exposing more undergrads to research and to tech transfer, I think is a great opportunity for making the system more inclusive.
So, Derrick, switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask you about unconscious bias, because that's something that all businesses, university, tech transfer offices, everybody has unconscious bias. We all have it. You and I sitting here today have unconscious bias. So how does the USPTO address unconscious bias in the patent process to help ensure fair treatment for all innovators, regardless of their backgrounds?
Well, I think I start off with the top line is that there's protections built in the system in that we do not take in demographic information when we're taking in patent applications. So there's a built-in layer right there. But internally as an agency, we also understand that you don't just rely on the system. You don't just rely on the process. So we also do a ton of training in the area of how can we be better colleagues to each other? How are we addressing each other as a community? And I think the PTO, one of the areas that we've excelled in is in the area with our workforce, with DEIA, but also just in terms of the community. It's why I just in the last few months met 2 employees who had been at the PTO for 50 years. One is 50 years and he's still working and he's still going. He loves his job that much. Loves his job. He said, he planned to come there for a year and said it just felt like home. And so it was that's a testament. The other gentleman just retired after 50 years just a few months ago. So I think we're blessed with having a great group of folks in the agency. But I will tell you on the unconscious bias and more directly is we just completed last summer agency-wide unconscious bias training. So we do internal training. Amongst our trainings that we do, included in that is unconscious bias, so that we are aware of ourselves. So it's something we do take seriously.
Yeah, obviously. Well, that's really great to hear about the unconscious bias training. And that's something we all need to do and keep having, constant training on it, because we all develop new unconscious bias over time. So that's really fantastic to hear. So, Derrick, I wanted to ask you kind of a broad question. What role do you see the PTO playing in shaping the future of diversity and inclusion efforts within tech transfer offices?
It's another great question.
It's a big one.
It is a big one. So the USPTO is, I think the first part of it, of any answer has to say that we're prepared to stand alongside our partners like AUTM, like the FLC, like NAI, like our federal partners like the SBA and BDA. We will stand alongside all of them as we try to continue to build this wonderful system and continue to promote its virtues to our economy, and also the educational benefits. But we are also going to work hard with our partners to coordinate resources. Biggest thing as an individual agency, sort of our lane to some degree, is we're going to continue to provide IP education wherever you have entrepreneurial efforts. And look, tech transfer, when you boil it down, it is research, it's the marketplace, and the thing that sits in between there to get you
connector.
Exactly. The bridge, I think in my swearing in speech, I refer to IP as the bridge to the marketplace. And it really is something. So we're going to continue to educate, but that education is faculty, it is students, but it's also the administrators. We're going to continue to do that. And I think the other aspect that we will do is we will continue to do early engagement. We are, again, I use this term blessed, but we're blessed to have a great educational outreach team. And we are stressing STEM education, and tech transfer we're going to continue to sing the praises of tech transfer as an opportunity, because if we can tell you that in high school, reinforce it when you're in college through another outreach program, maybe it gets on your radar and it becomes a career path for you.
So, Derrick, I want you to pull out your crystal ball as the podcast comes to a close. And I wanted to ask you, what opportunities do you foresee for the USPTO to further drive diversity and inclusion and innovation?
Well, I think we will we will continue to try to lead by example. So internally making sure that we have robust, inclusive teams that are bringing diverse solutions to the complex problems that we face, both as a country and as an ecosystem. We have already begun, for example, we've revamped our job postings to make them more inclusive, to cast a wider net. And we've had things like bringing on a lead advisor in this area. We've also stood up our first DEIA council for the agency that is going to drive more initiatives for the workforce, so that now it's not something, inclusion is not something you drive from the top. It is everybody is all hands on deck. So we will continue to do that. I think finally, when you look into the crystal ball, we have to work on scaling, but we will continue to meet people where they are and figuring out and going out and continuing to make sure that the general public continues to gain awareness of the importance of IP. And then also in the tech transfer space, to make sure that people are knowledgeable, not just about IP, but also we bring other information and general information from the innovation ecosystem, and we want to make sure that we're at the table to talk with both our partners and our collaborators. So that's what I see for the future, is just really meeting people where they are and bringing more people into the system, invite more people to the party. As my grandmother used to take in stray cats, and then she used to say, I take in stray people too. She would leave the door open when she was cooking dinner. And if somebody happened to wander by and smell something good, like my grandma could cook.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. But my grandma, someone would say, hey, Miss Virginia, that smells really good. Come on in. She put a plate down. That's where I think we have to be. I think that's where all of us that are working on this, AUTM, USPTO, all of the folks, the universities, all of us are trying to invite more to the table. So that's where we're going to be.
Well, Derrick, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And this time I had the pleasure of seeing you again in person, which is always delightful. And thank you so much for all that you and everyone at the USPTO is doing to foster diversity and inclusion and innovation. Thanks for taking all this time today to talk to us. And we really appreciate the partnership between AUTM and the USPTO.
Oh, likewise. A pleasure is mine. And Lisa, again, another great conversation. And it truly was a conversation.
It really was.
I appreciate the time, and I always love hearing your thoughts on this, because you're doing important work in this area too. So congratulations, and please keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. As we saw in this episode, it's clear that fostering diversity and inclusion within tech transfer offices is not only a goal, it's a necessity for driving positive change and innovation. Thanks to our guest, Derrick Brent, for sharing your invaluable insights and expertise. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to AUTM on the Air with Lisa Mueller. Get social with us and share your thoughts. You can tweet us at AUTM or visit us online at AUTM.net. We'll be back next week on the air. Be sure to join us.